The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the relentless snow as Morgan Hayes white-knuckled the steering wheel. 9 hours into what should have been a 6-hour drive. Her shoulders ached with tension, but her determination hadn't wavered. In the passenger seat, secured by a seat belt, sat an elegant white bakery box containing a strawberry champagne cake with gold-flecked frosting, her sister Amber's childhood favorite. Just a few more miles, she whispered, squinting through the swirling white. Morgan hadn't received an invitation to Amber's engagement party, but after 32 years of making excuses for her sister's oversights, she'd decided this time would be different. She would show up with Amber's favorite cake, a peace offering from the sister who always tried too hard to one who never seemed to try at all. What Morgan didn't realize as she navigated the treacherous roads was that the snowstorm outside was nothing compared to the emotional blizzard waiting for her at Rosewood Estate. Some journeys change you not because of the destination, but because of what you discover along the way. And sometimes, the most important truths are revealed when you're forced to see through the storm. Morgan stared through her windshield at the unrelenting white. The wipers fought a losing battle against the snowflakes, each thicker than the last. The GPS estimated another 3 hours to go, but weather like this could easily double that time. She glanced at the passenger seat where a large white bakery box sat, carefully secured by the seat belt. Inside was a strawberry champagne cake with gold-flecked frosting, Amber's childhood favorite. Just a little longer, she murmured, whether to herself or the cake. She wasn't sure. 9 hours in a snowstorm wasn't ideal, but Morgan hadn't heard from Amber directly about her engagement party. The invitation had never arrived. It was her mother who'd mentioned it in passing during their monthly call. Amber's having her engagement celebration at the Rosewood Estate next Saturday, Rachel had said, then quickly changed the subject. When Morgan asked about an invitation, her mother had sighed. You know how busy Amber gets with these things. I'm sure she meant to send one. It was always like this, excuses made, slights overlooked. Morgan had spent 32 years being understanding. This time would be different. She'd show up with Amber's favorite cake, a peace offering from the sister who always tried too hard. The dynamic between them had always been complicated. Growing up, Amber was the golden child, vibrant, social, the center of attention. Morgan was quieter, more thoughtful, excelling in school and art, but somehow never quite measuring up in their parents' eyes. Why can't you be more outgoing like your sister? Her father would ask when Morgan preferred reading to parties. Amber's already been made captain of the cheerleading squad. You should join more activities, her mother would suggest, despite Morgan's talent for design that would later become her career. As the miles crawled by, Morgan recalled the countless times she'd reached out only to be rebuffed. The graduation Amber hadn't attended. The housewarming party where Amber had shown up 3 hours late, stayed 30 minutes, then left with a dramatic story about a friend in crisis. The promotion celebration where her family had spent the evening discussing Amber's new boyfriend. Still, childhood memories of baking cakes together, of Amber climbing into Morgan's bed during thunderstorms, of secret sister handshakes kept hope alive. Something about Amber's engagement, this permanent commitment to family, felt like a potential turning point. The GPS recalculated as Morgan took an exit to avoid a jackknifed truck. Another hour added to the journey. Her hands ached from gripping the steering wheel. Outside, the temperature dropped to 15 degrees. Inside, Morgan clung to hope that had grown as fragile as the sugar flowers on Amber's cake. By the time Morgan's tires crunched on the gravel drive of Rosewood Estate, the blizzard had softened to gentle snowfall. Light poured from every window of the grand manor house, and Morgan could hear string music drifting across the snow-covered lawn. She checked her reflection in the rearview mirror, cheeks flushed from cold. eyes bright with anticipation. The valet approached her car, confusion flickering across his face as he took in her older model sedan among the luxury vehicles. "Are you with the catering staff?" he asked, glancing at the bakery box she carefully extracted from the passenger seat. Morgan laughed lightly. "No, I'm family. Morgan Hayes, the bride's sister." His brow furrowed slightly. "Of course, Ms. Hayes. I'll take care of your car." Inside, the estate was transformed into a winter wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over cream-colored roses and silver accents. Servers circulated with champagne flutes, and a photographer captured candid moments of guests mingling in evening wear. Morgan scanned the crowd for familiar faces, still holding the bakery box. She spotted her mother near the fireplace, elegant in a navy dress, speaking animatedly with a group of women Morgan didn't recognize. Before approaching her, Morgan sought out the guest book. She flipped through pages of well wishes, looking for her name in the table assignments. Table 1 had her parents. Table 2 featured Amber's college friends. Table 3 was for Nathan's family. She checked every page twice but couldn't find her name anywhere. "Probably just an oversight," she whispered, ignoring the tightness in her chest. Morgan found her mother, who offered a quick, cool cheek kiss. "Morgan, we didn't think you'd make it through that weather. 9 hours on the road, but I wouldn't miss it. I brought Amber's favorite cake." She lifted the box slightly. Rachel's smile tightened. "That's thoughtful. But the caterers have already prepared a dessert table. You know how particular Amber is about these things." Before Morgan could respond, her father appeared, offering a brief hug. "There's my other daughter. Glad you could make it." His words were right, but his tone suggested surprise rather than pleasure. Across the room, a presentation screen cycled through photos of Amber and Nathan childhood pictures, vacation snapshots, engagement photos. Morgan watched, waiting to see herself appear in at least one image. After 15 minutes, she realized she wasn't in any of them. Looking for something, Morgan turned to find her cousin Elise beside her. "Just noticing I don't seem to be in any of these photos." Elise shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sure it's just coincidence." "Is it?" Morgan asked quietly. Instead of answering, Elise squeezed her arm. "You should say hello to Amber. She's over by the gift table." Morgan approached her sister, who stood resplendent in a blush-colored silk dress, her blonde hair arranged in perfect curls. Amber was laughing at something Nathan's best man said, but her expression froze when she spotted Morgan. "You actually came," Amber said, surprise evident in her voice. "Of course I did. Congratulations." Morgan held out the cake box. "I brought your favorite." Amber didn't take the box. "In this weather, that's dedicated." She glanced at Nathan, who was watching the exchange with interest. "Nathan, this is my sister, Morgan." Nathan nodded politely. "Nice to finally meet you. Amber's mentioned you." Morgan wondered what exactly Amber had said about her, but before she could speak, Amber excused herself. "I need to check on something with the coordinator. I'll be right back." And left standing awkwardly with the cake. Morgan placed it on a side table and continued exploring the party. She overheard snippets of conversation as she passed. "I thought the sister wasn't coming. Always shows up at the last minute. Not exactly fitting in. Is she?" Near the bar. Morgan spotted a seating chart on an ornate mirror. She scanned it carefully, heart sinking when she confirmed there was no place for her at any table. As she turned away, her phone buzzed. A group message had arrived, but it wasn't meant for her. Somehow, she'd been accidentally added to a Amber's bridal party thread. She was about to close it when a message caught her eye. "Is that her sister by the bar? The one who wasn't supposed to be here?" "Yes, Amber said she doesn't fit the wedding aesthetic. We were supposed to say the list was full if she asked. Morgan's fingers went numb. She scrolled up, finding more messages about herself, including one from Amber dated 3 days earlier. If Morgan somehow shows up, just keep her away from the photographers. She always manages to make things about her. Morgan retreated to a quiet hallway, trying to process what she'd just read. The phone in her hand felt suddenly heavy. She leaned against the wall, breathing deeply, when voices from around the corner caught her attention. I can't believe she actually drove here. That was Tiffany, Amber's best friend since college. She always has to prove she's the good one. Amber's voice was unmistakable. 9 hours through a blizzard for what? Morgan held her breath, inching closer to hear better. Do you think she came to make amends? Tiffany asked. Morgan always wants to be the center of attention. This is my day. Amber's voice had an edge Morgan recognized from childhood arguments. She's always been like this, making grand gestures, so everyone thinks she's so thoughtful and perfect. Is that why you didn't invite her? A pause. I did not invite her. I just didn't make sure she got an invitation. There's a difference. Tiffany laughed. You're terrible. What did Nathan say? He thinks I should try harder with her. He doesn't understand. Nobody does. Growing up with Morgan was like living in a shadow. She was always the smart one, the responsible one, the talented one. Do you know what it's like having your parents constantly say, "Why can't you get grades like Morgan?" Or "Morgan would never stay out past curfew." So this is payback. It's self-preservation. Every family event turns into the Morgan show somehow. Remember my college graduation? She brought that ridiculous gift basket, and everyone kept talking about how thoughtful she was, while I was the one with the actual degree. Morgan's mind flashed back to that day she'd spent weeks assembling a personalized care package for Amber's first apartment. She thought it had been appreciated. Well, she's here now, Tiffany said. What are you going to do? Nothing. She'll get bored and leave when she realizes nobody's paying attention to her. She always does. Morgan backed away silently, memories reshuffling themselves in her mind, all those times she thought they were just missing connections. Was Amber deliberately pushing her away? In a daze, Morgan found herself in a small library off the main hall. Inside, displayed on an elegant table, was a collection of gifts labeled, "For Our Bridesmaids." 8 identical boxes with handwritten notes expressed Amber's gratitude for each woman's friendship. Morgan recognized names Tiffany, Elise, Amber's roommates from college, Nathan's sister. Nowhere among them was anything for Morgan. She sank into a leather chair, feeling suddenly exhausted. The 9-hour drive, the emotional weight of what she'd discovered it all pressed down on her. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was her mother. Where are you, Amber's about to make a toast? Morgan didn't respond. Instead, she found herself walking toward the kitchen, where she'd left her cake. The staff was busy preparing dessert trays, barely noticing her as she checked on the box. It sat untouched, the gold ribbon exactly as she'd tied it that morning. One of the servers approached. "Can I help you, ma'am?" "This cake," Morgan said quietly. "It's strawberry champagne. It was our favorite when we were kids. We used to beg our mom to make it for every birthday." The server smiled politely, clearly unsure how to respond. "We'd sneak into the kitchen at midnight and eat leftover slices together," Morgan continued, more to herself than to the server. "Amber would always let me have the sugar flowers because they were my favorite part." Memories washed over her. Amber at 7, crying over a scraped knee. Morgan at 12, patiently teaching her sister to ride a bike. Both of them huddled under blankets during summer thunderstorms, making up stories about cloud monsters. When had those sisters disappeared? Morgan found her mother by the champagne fountain. Rachel Hayes was holding court with several other elegantly dressed women, laughing a bit too loudly. "Mom," Morgan interrupted. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Rachel's smile remained fixed as she excused herself. "What is it?" "Dear Amber's about to give her speech. Did you know I wasn't on the guest list?" Her mother's expression flickered. "Don't be dramatic, Morgan. Of course you were invited." "Then why isn't my name on the seating chart? Why am I not in any of the family photos on display?" Rachel glanced around nervously. "This isn't the time or place. Morgan, you know how Amber gets about her special moments. Don't make this about you." The familiar accusation stung. "I drove 9 hours through a blizzard to be here. I brought her favorite cake. How exactly am I making this about me? You know what I mean." Rachel's voice dropped. "Your sister and you have always had your, Amazon, differences. Just try to be supportive without causing a scene. Can you do that?" Before Morgan could answer, Amber's voice rang out over the PA system, thanking everyone for coming to celebrate with all the people who matter most in our lives. The pointed exclusion was the final straw. Morgan looked at her mother, who was already turning away to watch Amber's speech. "I'm leaving." "Morgan, don't." But Morgan was already heading for the coat check. She collected her things, taking one last look at the party in full swing. Through the kitchen doorway, she could see her cake, still in its box, still untouched. Outside, the snow had started again, fat flakes illuminated by the estate's landscape lighting. Morgan stood for a moment, letting the cold air fill her lungs. 9 hours through a blizzard for this to finally see the truth she'd been avoiding for years. She climbed into her car and drove until she found a roadside motel with a vacancy sign. The room was basic but clean floral bedspread, humming heater, TV with limited channels. Morgan sat on the edge of the bed, finally allowing herself to cry not just for tonight, but for years of reaching out to find only empty space. Morgan woke to her phone buzzing incessantly. 27 new messages. She sat up, squinting at the screen in the thin morning light filtering through cheap curtains. From Mom. "Where did you go? Amber was upset you left without saying goodbye." From Dad. "Your mother is worried. Call us." From Elise. "Are you okay? Everyone's asking where you went." Then came the accusations. From Mom. "I asked you not to make a scene. Amber's in tears." From Dad. "This kind of dramatic exit was unnecessary. You've upset your sister on her special day." From Aunt Patricia. "Always thought you were the mature one. Disappointing behavior." Not one message asked if she was all right after driving through dangerous weather. Not one acknowledged what she'd discovered. Instead, they were rewriting history in real time. As the morning progressed, Morgan watched with a kind of numb fascination as the narrative transformed. According to family messages, she had shown up unexpectedly, caused tension, and stormed out dramatically when attention wasn't focused on her. By noon, Amber had posted on Instagram a picture of herself surrounded by bridesmaids, all in matching cream dresses, champagne glasses raised. The caption read, "Perfect celebration with everyone who truly supports our journey. Some people can't handle others' happiness without making it about themselves. Blessed, had engagement, true family." Morgan's phone rang her colleague Dana. "Uy, Mikey, Mama. Hey, weren't you supposed to be at your sister's engagement party? I just saw her post, and she made it sound like you weren't there." "I was there," Morgan said quietly. "But apparently, I wasn't supposed to be." "What happened?" Morgan hesitated. "It's complicated." "Well, there's some local wedding blog that shared her post with an anonymous story about a jealous family member crashing an engagement celebration. Is that about you?" Morgan's stomach dropped. She found the blog easily enough, Hudson Valley Wedding Insider, which had indeed shared Amber's post alongside a blind item. Sources tell us a certain celebration at Rosewood Estate this weekend had an uninvited guest who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. The family member in question arrived unannounced, demanded special accommodations, then disappeared after causing a scene. Yikes! The comments were already filling with speculation and judgment. Morgan closed the browser, feeling sick. This wasn't just family drama anymore. It was public humiliation. Morgan checked out of the motel but couldn't face the 9-hour drive home yet. Instead, she found a quiet coffee shop in a nearby town, ordered a large coffee, and considered her options. She could call each family member individually, trying to explain what really happened, but experience told her they'd believe Amber's version. She could confront Amber directly, but that would only feed into the dramatic sister narrative. She could stay silent, as she always had, absorbing the blame and waiting for things to blow over. Or she could stand up for herself, not with anger or accusations, but with simple truth. Morgan opened her phone's photo gallery. There was her dashboard temperature reading showing 15 degrees, the forecast warning about blizzard conditions. Her frost-covered windshield at a gas station 5 hours into the journey, a selfie she'd taken outside Rosewood Estate, exhausted but smiling, holding the cake box. She had evidence of her side of the story. Not to attack Amber, but to reclaim her own narrative. Morgan composed a simple Instagram post with 3 images: her car covered in snow, the cake sitting untouched in the kitchen, and her tired but hopeful selfie from arrival. Her caption was straightforward. Sometimes you show up for people who wouldn't show up for you. It's how you learn who deserves your effort. 9 hours through a blizzard taught me more than a lifetime of trying. She tagged no one, named no names. Those who knew would understand. Next, she drafted an email to her parents and Amber, attaching the receipt for the cake and a screenshot of the weather warnings from her drive. The body read simply, "I've always tried to be honest with you all. I wish you'd extend the same courtesy to me." Finally, she blocked the wedding blog's account and set her social media to private. This wasn't about public drama. It was about personal boundaries. Within an hour, reactions poured in, friends and colleagues offering support, distant relatives asking confused questions, her mother sending increasingly frantic texts demanding she stop this nonsense immediately. But it was Amber's reaction that surprised her most: absolute silence. No calls, no texts, nothing. The absence spoke volumes. 2 weeks later, Morgan stood outside her Aunt Carol's house, gathering courage. The weekly family brunch was a tradition whenever Amber visited from the city. Normally, Morgan found excuses not to attend, but today was different. Aunt Carol opened the door before Morgan could knock. "I was hoping you'd come," she said, pulling Morgan into a hug. It's been quite the 2 weeks of family drama. Inside, conversation stopped as Morgan entered the dining room. Her parents looked up sharply, her father's face unreadable, her mother's pinched with disapproval. Amber sat at the far end of the table beside Nathan, whose eyes held unexpected sympathy. Amber recovered first. "Morgan, we didn't think you'd come." "I almost didn't," Morgan admitted, taking the empty seat across from her sister. An uncomfortable silence fell until Aunt Carol bustled in with a tray of pastries. "Well, let's get this brunch started, shall we?" For 30 minutes, they maintained a facade of normality, passing dishes, discussing the weather, carefully avoiding the elephant in the room. Then Amber tapped her water glass with a spoon. "Since everyone's here," she began, voice bright but eyes wary, "I wanted to thank you all for your support during this special time. Family means everything to Nathan and me." It's important to surround ourselves with people who lift us up instead of bringing drama into our lives. The pointed comment hung in the air. Morgan set down her fork. Is that directed at me? Amber. Amber's smile remained fixed. I'm just speaking generally. Really? Because it sounds like you're continuing the narrative that I somehow ruined your engagement party by showing up. Morgan, please, their mother interjected. Let's not do this now. When should we do it, Mom? When Amber posts another veiled accusation on social media? When that wedding blog publishes more anonymous stories about me? Nathan looked sharply at Amber. What wedding blog? Morgan reached for her phone. Before we go further, I want to play something for everyone. She pressed play on the audio file she'd retrieved from her phone's automatic recording feature activated when she'd been taking notes for a client in that estate hallway. Amber's voice filled the room. She always has to prove she's the good one. 9 hours through a blizzard for what? Tiffany's response. Do you think she came to make amends? Morgan always wants to be the center of attention. This is my day. Morgan stopped the recording, watching comprehension dawn on her family's faces. Nathan looked particularly stricken. You recorded me. Amber's voice shook. Not intentionally. My phone was recording from an earlier client call. I discovered it later. That's invasion of privacy. Is it, or is it finally having evidence of what I've been experiencing for years? Morgan turned to her parents. I drove 9 hours through dangerous conditions because I thought family mattered. I brought Amber's favorite cake because I remembered how much she loved it when we were kids. I arrived to discover I wasn't even on the guest list, wasn't in a single family photo, and wasn't welcome. And somehow, I'm the one who caused drama. Her father looked down at his plate. Her mother's lips trembled. And Amber, Morgan continued, voice softening, all I've ever wanted was to be your sister, not your competition, not your villain, just your sister. Amber's eyes filled with tears, whether from genuine emotion or frustration at being exposed. Morgan couldn't tell. You don't understand what it was like growing up with you, she said finally. Always perfect Morgan. I was never good enough when compared to you. I never compared us. That was Mom and Dad. Both parents flinched. You didn't have to, Amber continued. You just had to exist, being effortlessly good at everything while I struggled. Do you know what that feels like? About as good as being deliberately excluded from your sister's life while being blamed for ruining it somehow. Nathan placed a hand on Amber's shoulder. I think we should go. Nathan, we need to talk. Amber? Privately. His voice was gentle but firm. As they stood to leave, Nathan paused beside Morgan. I'm sorry. I didn't know about any of this. Morgan nodded, surprised by the genuine regret in his eyes. After they left, the remaining family sat in stunned silence until Aunt Carol spoke up. Well, that's been a long time coming. The fallout was immediate. Nathan postponed the dinner with his parents that had been scheduled for that weekend. Extended family members who had been quick to judge now approached Morgan with awkward apologies. Her Instagram post had quietly accumulated supportive comments from friends and even a few relatives who recognized the truth when they saw it. 3 days after the brunch, Morgan received a text from Tiffany. I'm not proud of how I have acted. I'm sorry. No excuses, no explanations, just a simple acknowledgement. Morgan appreciated it more than an elaborate apology. A day later, Nathan called. I wanted to check on you, he said, sounding genuinely concerned. I'm okay, Morgan replied. How's Amber? Struggling, but honestly coming to terms with some things she's needed to face for a long time. He paused. I had no idea about the dynamic between you two. She always made it sound like you were estranged because you chose to be. That's not surprising. We're Taking some time to reevaluate. I love Amber, but I need to know the person I'm marrying. Morgan felt a twinge of guilt. I didn't mean to disrupt your relationship. You didn't. You just revealed what was already there. His voice softened. For what it's worth, I think she does love you. She just doesn't know how to love without competing. After they hung up, Morgan sat with that thought. Perhaps that was true of her whole family love entangled with comparison, with expectations, with roles assigned since childhood. A week passed before Amber finally called. Morgan answered on the third ring. I thought you might ignore me, Amber said, her voice smaller than Morgan had ever heard it. I considered it. Silence stretched between them. Are you and Nathan okay? Morgan finally asked. He's giving me space to figure things out. The wedding's on hold. I'm sorry. Are you? Amber's question wasn't accusatory, just curious. Yes, despite everything, I want you to be happy, Amber. Another pause. I started therapy last week. The admission surprised Morgan. That's good. The therapist asked about my earliest memory of feeling like I wasn't enough. Amber's voice wavered. It was when I was 6, and Dad hung your art project on the fridge but put mine in a drawer. He said yours showed real talent. Morgan closed her eyes, remembering that crayon drawing of their family. I didn't know. How could you? You were just being you. Amber took a deep breath. I've been jealous of you since I was old enough to understand what that feeling was. You were the shadow I could never escape. That's ironic, Morgan said softly, because I've always felt invisible next to you. You? But everyone loves you. You're the responsible one, the smart one. They might respect me, but they delight in you, Amber. Every room lights up when you enter it. I was just the reliable backdrop to your main character energy. Amber laughed, a genuine sound that reminded Morgan of their childhood. God, we're a mess, aren't we? A little bit. I was cruel to you at the party and probably for years. Yes, Morgan agreed, not softening the truth. You were. I can't change overnight, Amber said quietly, but I'm trying to understand why I do what I do, why I always felt like there wasn't enough love to go around. Morgan thought about the years of missed connections, of hurt feelings, of assumptions and misunderstandings. I don't hate you, Amber, but I can't just pretend none of this happened. I know, I'm not asking for that. Amber hesitated. I just wanted you to know I'm working on it. On me. It wasn't an apology, exactly, but it was perhaps something more valuable an acknowledgement, a beginning. That weekend, Morgan visited a small bakery near her apartment. She ordered a simple cake with white frosting and gold dust, no message, no names, just something beautiful for herself. At home, she lit a candle, cut a generous slice, and sat by her window, watching evening settle over the city. Her phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Carol. The family drama is settling, but I'm proud of you for breaking the silence. Some storms need to happen to clear the air. Morgan smiled, thinking about the blizzard she'd driven through, how terrifying it had been in the moment, how clarifying in retrospect. Sometimes you had to pass through darkness to find your way. She opened her laptop and began writing a post she'd been considering for days. Not about Amber, not about blame, but about finding your own voice when others have been speaking for you. To anyone who's been made to feel like they're too much or not enough, your story doesn't have to be written by others. Sometimes the truest family is the one you build from honesty, even when that means standing alone for a while. The journey through the storm is worth it when you finally reach clear skies. She hit publish, then turned off her notifications. This wasn't about responses or validation anymore. Later that evening, while sorting through old keepsakes, Morgan found a journal from her teenage years. She flipped it open to a random page and found a line written in her 16-year-old handwriting. Maybe if I'm quieter, they'll love me louder. Morgan tore out the page, struck a match, and watched the paper curl and blacken in her kitchen sink. That girl didn't live here anymore. Her phone rang. It was Nathan. Amber's been trying to reach you. I turned off my notifications, Morgan explained. She wanted you to know she showed her therapist your social media post. It helped her understand some things. Morgan hadn't expected that. Is she okay? Getting there, we're taking things slowly, but I think we're going to be all right. He paused. She also wanted me to tell you she found an old photo album from when you two were kids. There's a picture of you both covered in cake frosting. She said to tell you she remembers those times too. After they hung up, Morgan sat with the memory 10-year-old Amber with pink frosting in her hair, 7-year-old Morgan laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Before competition, before expectations, before roles hardened into identity. The next morning, Morgan woke to a text from Amber, a photo of that very picture. Two little girls with cake-smeared faces and gap-toothed grins. No caption, no explanation needed. Morgan didn't respond immediately. Healing wouldn't come from one grand gesture or revelation. It would take time, boundaries, and consistent effort from both of them. But for the first time in years, she felt something like hope. She cut another slice of her cake for breakfast, a small rebellion, a simple pleasure. Outside, the last of winter was melting away, revealing the first green hints of spring. Morgan thought about storms, how they reshape landscapes, reveal foundations, wash away what isn't firmly rooted. The blizzard had done that for her, stripping away pretense to expose painful truths. But in that clearing, something new could grow. Sometimes the storm doesn't come to destroy, it comes to clear the air. Here's an engaging outro for the story. The morning light filtered through Morgan's apartment windows, casting gentle shadows across her living room. She sat by the windowsill, a fresh cup of coffee warming her hands, watching as the last remnants of winter melted away. 3 weeks had passed since that fateful drive through the blizzard, a journey that had changed everything. On her coffee table sat a small cake with simple white frosting and gold dust, no elaborate decorations, no message, just something beautiful she had bought for herself. Beside it lay the photograph Amber had sent two little girls with cake-smeared faces and gap-toothed grins, before expectations and comparisons had carved a canyon between them. Morgan hadn't responded to the photo immediately. Real healing wouldn't come from grand gestures or single revelations. It would take time, boundaries, and consistent effort from both of them. But for the first time in years, possibility glimmered like sunlight on fresh snow. She thought about storms, how they reshape landscapes, reveal foundations, wash away what isn't firmly rooted. The blizzard had done that for her family, stripping away pretense to expose painful truths. But in that clearing, something authentic could finally grow. Morgan cut herself another slice of cake for breakfast, a small rebellion, a simple pleasure. Outside, the first green hints of spring emerged from the thawing ground. She smiled, thinking of what Aunt Carol had said. Some storms need to happen to clear the air. She had driven 9 hours through a blizzard searching for her sister, only to find herself instead. And that, perhaps, was the most unexpected journey of all. Sometimes the storm doesn't come to destroy. It comes to show us what remains when everything else is blown away.